Welcome to This Explainer. You know the exact feeling. You're visiting a website, you go to log in, you're in a rush, and bam, you're stopped dead in your tracks, forced to literally prove your own existence. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. It's this tiny, invisible war happening constantly on almost every web page you visit, and today we're going to demystify exactly what's going on behind the scenes.
Okay, let's dive into this. At the very heart of this daily annoyance is a pretty huge question that engineers have been wrestling with for years. Simply put, how does a website actually know whether you are a living, breathing human being or just a piece of automated code? Honestly, it sounds like some deep philosophical question, right? But out on the internet, it's just a matter of basic, everyday security.
Let's ground this in our own reality for a second. You're typing in your information, trying to move quickly, and suddenly you're asked to identify a bunch of bicycles, or traffic lights, or maybe you're staring at this incredibly grainy photo, trying to figure out if that one blurry corner actually counts as a crosswalk. We have all been there, squinting at our screens, totally frustrated that our login got paused just to prove we aren't a robot. But seriously, why do websites actually do this to us?
Well, to understand why, we've got to look at the technology itself. It's called CAPTCHA. Basically, it's a digital evolution of the famous Turing test. Think of it as a security bouncer standing right at the door of a website's most sensitive areas. Its entire job is just to distinguish between real human users and automated software, what we usually call bots. It's literally there to filter out the machines from the flesh and blood visitors like us.
Let's move into Section 1, the war against bots. Now, it's important to point out that not all automated programs are inherently bad. The web actually completely relies on helpful bots. Think of search engine crawlers that go out, discover, and index content so we can find things online. But on the darker side of things, we've got malicious scripts operating at blazing speeds that no human could ever possibly match.
And the threat vector here is absolutely massive. These bad bots aren't just messing around. They can instantly spin up thousands of fake accounts. They can flood your favorite forums with spam, execute high-speed credential stuffing to crack your passwords, and even launch DDoS attacks that completely overwhelm and shut down entire online services. So yeah, this is exactly why CAPTCHA is such a critical, necessary line of defense.
Which brings us to Section 2, why the weird pictures. If you'd been on the internet for a while, you probably remember the early days of this. We used to get those heavily distorted, squiggly text boxes. The whole idea back then was that humans could kind of squint and read it, while computers totally struggled. But, well, artificial intelligence got smarter. Over time, those text tests actually became easier for machines to solve than for us humans. So the strategy had to shift to image challenges. We get asked to pick out buses and bicycles because it's a visual task that's relatively easy for our human eyes, but notoriously difficult for automated systems to process accurately. Though, as you'll see in a minute, the future is moving towards something entirely invisible.
Oh, and we need to clear up a massive misconception right now. When you fail a capture and have to do it again, and let's be honest, it makes you feel a bit silly. It is absolutely not measuring your intelligence. The system does not care one bit how smart you are. It's definitely not an IQ test. It is simply trying to see if you act, click, and behave like an erratic human being instead of a perfectly programmed script.
Moving on to Section 3, the checkbox secret.
Okay, sometimes you don't even get asked to identify a crosswalk. Sometimes you literally just click a tiny box next to the words, "I am not a robot." And come on, that seems way too easy, doesn't it? How in the world can checking one single, simple little box prove to a highly secure website that you aren't an automated program?
Now, what's really fascinating about this is what's happening completely out of sight. The moment you click that checkbox, it triggers a massive, instantaneous analysis. They're looking at your mouse movement patterns. Why? Because we humans move erratically. We make little curves, we hesitate. Bots calculate perfect, flawless straight lines. The system also measures the unique speed and rhythm of your typing, how long it actually takes you to process the page, and even pulls under-the-hood browser data tied to your specific device. And all of this happens in a fraction of a second.
And honestly, this perfectly illustrates the crazy tightrope that website operators are walking every single day. Every capture is a huge trade-off between security and convenience. If they make the challenge too easy, the bots get right through, and the site is compromised. But if they make it too hard, legitimate humans get incredibly annoyed and might just close the tab and leave. They have to constantly adjust that balance. That delicate tweaking is exactly why you occasionally experience the deep frustration of clicking traffic lights 3 different times before you finally get to log in. They're really just trying to keep the site safe without making you pull your hair out.
And that brings us to Section 4, the future of CAPTCHA.
So as AI systems get increasingly capable, figuring out who is a human and who is a machine is getting exponentially harder. I mean, AI can now identify a crosswalk almost as well as you or I can. Because of this, future systems are going to rely way less on those annoying visual puzzles we're so used to. Instead, the future of logging in is going to be practically invisible. The defenses will lean heavily into deep behavioral analysis, tracking the reputation of your specific device, and using some really complex risk-scoring algorithms just working quietly in the background. The goal is the exact same: protect online services, but let real people move fast. But the methods are totally changing.
I really want to leave you with a profound thought from our source material today. The fundamental question websites are asking is slowly shifting from, "Can you solve this puzzle?" to, "Do you behave like a human?" It's such a fascinating pivot. But as AI gets better and better at mimicking our erratic, imperfect behaviors, it leaves us with one final kind of wild question. How long until machines are actually better at acting human than we are? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and keep learning.